And we can talk now to Kerry Allen, who's the China analyst for BBC Monitoring. Kerry, thanks very much for being with us. So, how is this being reported in mainland China? These huge protests in Hong Kong that we're seeing almost day after day, almost, a million people possibly on the streets again today.
It's not being reported at all, and this has very much been the case for the last week. I mean, these protests started last Sunday, and last Sunday what I noticed on Sina Weibo, which is the equivalent of Facebook or Twitter, where a lot of people consume their news, the word Hong Kong just became outright censored. So people were getting around showing the pictures of the protests, and China will actively never allow any pictures of protests into the country, even if there are only 10 people. I mean, in this case, there's more than 1 million people last week, and it is expected today that the protests may be higher. There are hundreds of thousands of people on the street at any given time. So yeah, China has censored more and more terms. It censored the term 1.03 million last week. It's increasingly censoring areas as well, like Victoria Park, where a lot of people are gathered today. So the protests whatsoever are, if you're in mainland China, you're not seeing them.
And how is Hong Kong generally viewed in mainland China?
Well, Hong Kong is very much seen as a kind of a province of mainland China. So one of the dialogues that's been coming up in response to the bill being suspended, China's very angry about this, and it's saying that it's due to US interference particularly, and yeah, this is, even though it's only a regional story from China's perspective, from Beijing's perspective, one of the comments that's coming up from a lot of official papers and also from social media users paid by the government is Hong Kong is China's Hong Kong. This is the phrase that I'm seeing repeated again and again in Chinese media.
And the reason people in Hong Kong are so worried about this extradition bill is essentially they fear that suspects could just be hauled out of Hong Kong and sent to mainland China, and especially political activists. That's what they're worried about.
Absolutely, yes. And as Martin said, I mean, the reason that people are still protesting today, even though this bill's been suspended, people don't really see that in Hong Kong as, oh, that's great, this is a move forward. What they see is this is a means by Carrie Lam to try and get people off the streets. It's been suspended. It doesn't mean that it's been cancelled. So that's why people today are protesting, more and more protesters. And I mean, the pictures today that are appearing in independent media in Hong Kong, because bear in mind, there's a lot of state, I mean, it's outright state media in mainland China, but in papers like South China Morning Post, independent papers within Hong Kong, the images compared to last week are just so striking from kind of like bird's eye view images. Just so many people dressed in black, and more people, it appears, than last week.
All right, good to talk to you, Kerry Allen, there, China analyst for BBC Monitoring. Thank you very much for the latest there on those massive protests in Hong Kong that are continuing today.